Hello everybody, we're now going to have our first lesson on trigonometry. So there's our heading. So what is trigonometry? Well, trigonometry is a really practical branch of mathematics, and it's been around for thousands of years really, and I think it was first came up around the 300 BC, so at least a couple of thousand years trigonometry has been in existence. And what it's all about? It's all about the measurement of angles and lengths inside triangles, and using the relationships inside triangles to actually work out distances and unknown lengths and unknown angles in a variety of different problems. And so it's the sort of mathematics that you could take outside and use it, for example, to work out how high a tree is off in the distance simply by measuring its angle above the horizon. So that would be like a practical example of trigonometry, and we'll get to that very soon. So before we can sort of get our hands dirty with trigonometry, we need to know some of the basics. So the first thing is we need to know the parts of a right angle triangle. Okay, so I'm going to draw a right angle triangle now. And I'd like you to draw one as well. Okay. So the key to making trigonometry very easy to do is knowing how to label your triangle. Okay, so there's our right angle, our 90-degree right angle. So we'll be talking about triangles that are pretty much exclusively at this stage 90 degrees. So the first thing we need to be able to do is know that the longest side of a right angle triangle is called the hypotenuse. And that's something we learned at the very beginning of the year, but we need to know that. So I'm going to use capital H to represent that, and we'll just write the full name here. So hypotenuse. Okay. Now, the next thing, unlike Pythagoras, we are also going to be using angles. So, for example, in a problem, we might be provided with the angle in here. We might know that angle in there. Okay? And so, often we'll use a Greek letter like theta, or it might be another one called alpha, where we're using that letter to describe the angle. So there's an angle. And just to remind you that theta is often what we can use to describe an angle, or the Greek letter alpha, or sometimes the Greek letter beta. So all of these we can use to describe or label an angle. Sometimes we can actually just use normal capital letters as well, and we'll get to that in a moment. So, if this is the angle that we've been given in our triangle over here, then we need to be able to use this angle to label the other remaining sides. Now, the next side we need to be able to label is called the opposite. So, O for opposite. Now, how do I know that this was the opposite side? Well, it's really easy to work out because the opposite side is always opposite the angle. So if this is our angle here, then the opposite side over here, well, there it is, that's our opposite. On the other hand, if we had the angle here, if that was our angle, then the opposite side would be this side. So remember, we'll write that down, that's really important. The opposite side is always, it's always opposite the angle. The remaining side, the last side, is called the adjacent. A for adjacent. And often it's the side that's left over. Okay, what it really means is it's the side that is next to the angle. So this is the side that's opposite the angle. This is the side that's next to the angle. Adjacent means next to. So it's the side next to the angle. Okay, so they're the key sides of a right angle triangle. Now, the other thing we need to do, or will often have to do, is label our triangle like this. For example, we might label this triangle M, N, O. So we could name this triangle. We could call it, if we want to refer to this triangle, we could refer to this in a shorthand method by saying triangle. So we'll use the symbol triangle M, N, O. So if we use something like that, that's saying consider the triangle M, N, O, which is this triangle we've just drawn. If we want to talk about this angle here, that angle in there, we could also refer to that as angle O. And the way we would write that, we'd write the symbol for angle, which is like, there's the symbol for angle there. Looks just like part of the triangle. So angle O, if we write that, that means we're referring to, that means angle O. Okay? Which is that angle there. On the other hand, if I wanted to talk about this angle here, we could have actually called it theta, but another way to name this angle, we could name this angle here as angle M. Okay, so there are a number of ways that we can label or refer to an angle in a triangle. Of course, the other remaining way of referring to a side of a triangle, and this may come up on occasions, if I want to talk about this side here, the hypotenuse, I could also call that side MO. I could call this side here NO or ON if I like, and the adjacent I could have also called MN. And the way we would write that, if I want to label or talk about this side of the triangle, say the adjacent, I could use this way, writing it this way, M, N, and I draw a line above it indicating we're talking about the side MN. So that means side MN. Okay, so there are the different ways that we can refer to the sides and angles of a triangle. Okay, well, that's the end of our introduction to the basic labelling of a triangle in trigonometry, and I now want you to watch the next video. Okay, thank you.